Gambia participate presses Supreme Court's decision to declare the National Assembly loan scheme as unconstitutional. DR Congo's health authorities say the Central African country is free from Ebola after eliminating the latest outbreak. And youth serving as lifeguards at local beaches calls for more support from the Gambia government. Well, these and more coming your way in News Desk. Hello, this is iAfrica TV and many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, the Executive Director of the Gambia Participate, Mar Nyang, has commented on the verdict of the Supreme Court of the Gambia that declared the 54.4 million loan scheme for parliamentarians as unconstitutional. The ruling came after the Gambia Participate and the Center for Research and Policy Development filed a legal suit against the National Assembly. Speaking to Africa TV, Mr. Nyang highlighted the importance of the court's victory. Details of that in this report by Amindao.
The National Assembly members have allocated a staggering sum of $54.4 million as a loan scheme for themselves in late last year. The loan move came after a nominated member of the parliament, Yakumbo Jete, said they needed a loan and they had the powers to take loans for themselves. In January 2021, the Gambia Participate and Center for Research and Policy Development filed a lawsuit against the National Assembly, demanding that the highest court of the land issue an order that prevent parliamentarians from pocketing the loan of $54.4 million they appropriated in the 2021 national spending. The Supreme Court on Tuesday ruled that the lawmakers violated the Constitution for allocating the loan scheme for themselves. Mar Nyang, the executive director of the Gambia Participate, said they are grateful that the Supreme Court fulfilled their wishes.
And one of our prayers that we prayed for at the Supreme Court was for the Supreme Court to declare the action of the National Assembly unconstitutional, number one. Also, to strike away the 54.4 million from the budget of the National Assembly, among others. And today, we are thankful that the Supreme Court answers our prayers or granted our prayers. And they have ruled that any staff or member of the parliament that have used this amount of money, the government should recover this amount of money. And the 54.4 million should be struck away from the 2021 national budget. And then also their action is also unconstitutional.
Nyang said they will keep taking actions if any of the arms of the government want to violate the laws.
And we are governed by a law. We are not saying that the parliaments are not subject to have any allowance or the likes, but any action. And this is not only for parliament, like I said, this is for our democracy. And this is one of the cases, or one of the many cases that we were activating. Violate the laws of the country, we will have to take action. Because we have been demonstrating under the hot sun. We've been attacked at some point verbally and in the past physically. But now we have worked towards getting all the way here. We are not turning back to where we come from. And as a result, we cannot elect officials that keeps on violating our laws.
Mar added that they are with the belief that the wealth of the country should be spent in accordance with the law in any way or form.
But to go back to this case, we believe that the national purse of the country should be protected. Is supposed to be expended. It has to be done in accordance of the law. That's why we have a law that guides how our wealth are collected and how they are expended. So lawmakers are expected not to break law. If you are making law, do not break the law.
In December 2020, less than 2 years before the end of their legislature, Gambian lawmakers raised anger and concern among citizens when they decided to allocate the said sum of the approved annual estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 2021. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
Gambia participate, a civil society organization there, lauding the Supreme Court's decision to declare the National Assembly loan scheme as unconstitutional. Now, the South Sudanese government has reopened schools that could allow students return to their classrooms as the number of coronavirus cases declined. Well, public places, including learning institutions, were shut down as part of efforts to contain the spread of the virus. However, authorities still remain vigilant of the situation by advising students to respect the outlined protocols. The United Nations Children Agency is providing thousands of face masks to different schools after the government says it does not have the means to provide sanitary materials. And here's more details of that in this report.
At the Juba One Boys School, students are celebrating their reopening.
So our government, they don't for us a good thing and open for us in school. Our staying at home is not fine. Many of us, especially we girls, we have get pregnant, some of us have get married, and that's not good. I'm very glad they opened for us in school and we are back to learn.
South Sudan's government says COVID-19 infection rate is now at 3%. That's the lowest since it imposed the lockdown a year and 3 months ago. But it is warning that more needs to be done to keep the schools open.
Each one of us has to play a role that is divided to personal level, where you have to make sure that you are wearing the mask, you are washing your hands, and you are keeping social distancing. That is the only message I want to give, because it will keep our school open.
South Sudan's government says it lacks funds to buy hand sanitizers, soap and face masks needed in schools across the country. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says it is donating 900,000 face masks to schools. The UN says South Sudan has one of the lowest literacy rates in the world, with only 27% of the country's population able to read and write. And South Sudan's government still faces many challenges to providing much needed education.
Army took school as barracks. 3 displaced people reside in some of the schools. 4 public universities are operating at premises belong to general education in the states.
The UN is urging the government to address the issue of insecurity for children across the country to have access to learning institutions.
After a long break due to COVID-19, the South Sudanese authorities have now reopened schools in the country. And from the report there in South Sudan next to DR Congo, now after claiming several lives, the latest Ebola outbreak in DR Congo have been contained, according to a statement from the country's health minister. The World Health Organization has commended the authorities for their timely response to battle against the deadly virus, while encouraging for vigilance to avoid another outbreak. The Central African country was severely hit by the disease in 2018, when more than 2,000 people lost their lives. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The DRC's health minister, Jean-Jacques Mbungani, issued a statement declaring the end of the country's 12th Ebola outbreak. The disease was contained in less than 3 months after the first case was reported in the eastern city of Butembo. The World Health Organization praised the country's health officials for their swift response in tackling the disease, but they have called for vigilance and the maintenance of strong surveillance systems to avoid a resurgence. 12 people contracted Ebola and 6 of them lost their lives in the latest outbreak. Officials say the disease was contained using a vaccine that was administered to more than 1,600 people. The DRC's worst Ebola outbreak occurred in 2018 in the east of the country. It claimed more than 2,200 lives. Ebola is a contagious virus that scientists say is transmitted to humans from wild animals and spreads within the population through human-to-human transmission.
And from the report there in the DR Congo, after the Central African country finally contained the latest outbreak of the Ebola disease in the country. Now, as the members of the public anticipate to hear testimony from the remaining junglers, Babagale Jallo, the TRRC's executive secretary, said the commission's effort to bring the remaining junglers, including Rambo and others, was not possible. It could be recalled that they said junglers who carried out most of the atrocities and human rights violations during the Jammeh era flew to Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. And this tells us more of that in this report.
Junglers were the main weapon used by the former President Jammeh to torture and intimidate people who he perceived to be his enemy. As some of the junglers gave testimonies before the TRRC, will also come and give their testimony. However, in an interview with iAfrica TV, Babagale Jallo, the executive secretary of the TRRC, said the commission has done efforts to make sure that the said junglers testify, but to no avail.
Certainly, we have a lot of evidence from the junglers who testified here, Hoya and Malik Jata and others. They came and they testified and they confessed to many of the crimes that were committed by the junglers. So we would have loved to have junglers part 2, and that would have been based on the testimonies of a key witness, this guy, Bailo. Unfortunately, as we know, Bailo was arrested by the German authorities, so he's under custody. He's not available to testify now. We have been making attempts to reach out to junglers in Guinea-Bissau without success. We have reached out to junglers in Senegal and Casamance without success. Malik Manga and Bombarde and so on and so forth. They are in Senegal and Mauritania. We made a lot of efforts to bring them or to have them testify via video link. That has not been possible. And so I'm not sure we will have junglers part 2, even though we wanted very much to have that.
At the end of its mandate, the TRRC is expected to make recommendations for those found guilty to face the law. Mr. Jallo said it will be a disappointment and a betrayal of trust for both the Commission workers and Gambians if the government fails to implement the recommendations.
Well, our mandate is to make findings and recommendations and submit it to the government. Now, what we expect to see and what the victim community expects to see and what the great majority of Gambians and the international community expect to see is for the government to implement the recommendations that come out of the TRRC. I think that is what we expect to see. If anything else happens, that's not the expectation. That would be, I think, a betrayal of the trust of both the Commission workers and the country. So we expect that the government is going to implement the recommendations of the Commission.
Meanwhile, since all these crucial acts happened during the presidency of Yahya Jammeh, Gambians are with the confidence that the main alleged perpetrator will appear before the Commission. Dr. Jallo, however, clears the air about the issue.
I'm not sure about that. I don't think he will appear. Even if we invited him, I'm not sure he will appear. Or if he appeared, he would be a very aggressive witness. I'm sure he will not cooperate. He would trust the Commission. I mean, I'm not, reading his mind, but judging from his temperament, I don't think that his appearance would add any great value to the evidence we already have. So I don't know what the Commission's decision is going to be, whether to send him an invitation or send him a subpoena to appear by video link, but I don't think he will, honestly.
The TRRC is an independent Gambian institution with a mandate to conduct research and investigations into human rights violations committed under the presidency of Yahya Jammeh. After thorough investigations, the Commission is expected to submit reports and recommendations to the government for implementation. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy C.
This is Africa TV, and there's more news coming ahead. But from that report there by Ndesise, we would now take a break and come back shortly with the remainder of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. This is Africa TV, and once again, many thanks for joining us. Now, as the Muslim feast marking the end of Ramadan is fast approaching, tailors all over the country are busy serving a heavy customer base. The event known as Eid al-Fitr is observed worldwide in prayers and of course, celebratable gestures. Fatma Kasim went out and about looking into a work of different fashion designers customized for the car. Now, let's have more details of that in this report.
Last-minute preparations are sweeping across the Gambia as Muslims prepare to celebrate 2021 Eid al-Fitr. While market's population hit the highest number of buyers, tailors work day and night on fashion designs in response to the customers. The pressure on tailors is not only justified by the high demand for few new outfits, but also the short time available for production ahead of the Holy Feast. Morangiran, a tailoring workshop owner, described the 24 hours work pressure activated as a business season for skilled specialists like himself. It is a moment for business to receive after a whole year of setback due to the coronavirus pandemic.
Because so not the last 15 days or last 10 days
This is a short time for us, and everyone wants to look good for the Eid. That is why the pressure is always high. We are used to it now, so we'll handle it and give it our best. Each season is a different form. There are new system and new style. Everything change. So if you have in your tailoring shop, you will have to see how to adapt to the new system. If I compare last year to this year, we had series of lockdown due to the coronavirus that have changed everything because of the limitation. But thank God, this year is different because there are no tight restrictions. This has allowed customers to bring their materials to us and make us feel at ease to accept their goods, because we will know we have ample time to complete their work. I will say this year is far better than last year. A good number of people have been complaining about the high increment of the stitching fee.
A good number of people have been complaining about a high increment in stitching. However, Modulamin explained the prices of good designs to the cost of sewing materials.
If I happen to buy an item for $50, all of a sudden it increased to $100, I will have to charge more than the price I bought it for, and also charge for the manpower too. But sometimes we charge all inclusively. But if the customer wants, we could charge them just for a stitch so that they could buy their own material. We don't always have problem for charging because the customer themselves know the worth of our work. Well, sometimes it is just the customer's fault.
It is common to find customers complaining of not getting timely delivery of service from tailors. Ahmad Sar blamed some of the delays on the side of fashion designers to the high number of contracts in a very short time.
Well, sometimes customers,
well, sometimes it is just the customer's fault. Sometimes it's the fault of the tailor. Because if you are a tailor and you have already collected a lot of materials, you should be able to tell them. But sometimes, even if you tell the customers that you have more materials, you cannot take any more, they will still keep begging you and force you to take their materials. And if that happens, you may sow for them, but it will also cause delay, and some will wait for the last minute and bring their materials as well. So I will say both sides are responsible.
The last few days of the month of fasting is a period during which Muslims invest very much on fashion and food in preparation for the holy feast. With almost every member of the family wishing to dress in a beautiful African attire, every tailoring workshop is compelled to work under serious pressure. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Preparations ahead of the end of the holy month of Ramadan gains momentum in the Gambia, like in many other countries around the world. Now, youths at the Palmarima beach who volunteer to serve as lifeguards call on the government to provide them with more life-saving materials such as boats and towels. Well, according to them, they are usually receive sponsors from tourists, which has now been hindered by the pandemic. And let's have more of that in this report by Ndesise.
Lack of employment opportunities has ever been a concern for Gambian youth, and many of them are usually left fending for themselves. As a result, most of these youth in the country prefer to engage themselves into something that can earn them a source of living. Here are some of those youth who engage themselves into voluntary services at the beachside by saving lives of people who cannot actually swim.
Our
job is to rescue children from dying while in the river, because most of these kids leave their home without the knowledge of their parents. These children usually don't pass through the checkpoints, they use the back door to the beach. This is why we are here throughout the day to monitor them. Most people who come to the beach don't know how to swim. As a result, many people lost their lives. But since we have started working here as lifeguards, we have saved the lives of many people. Our work is very difficult. Since we were young, we have been into this. We have saved a lot of lives, and we never requested anything from it, because we know that no one can pay us. Only Allah can pay us. And this is why we don't expect anything from anyone.
These youth underline the challenges they encounter and some of the materials they need from the government to carry out their services.
Amuñ bagage te bagage lañ gëna ñit fire service yi ñoom seen gaal yuñ am noonu mënon nañ ñu ko jox.
We don't have enough materials that is needed to do the work. The boat that the fire service has, they can give it to us at least, because every day we are here to rescue everyone who is drowned, and sometimes we even take them to the hospital all by ourselves. We are doing this for the sake of Allah, and this is why we need materials such as rescue boat, uniform, boat and tower, because the tower we have right now is not good.
Lifeguards are very important on every side, as they make beaches a safer place for both Gambians and tourists. However, if the incidence of drowning is to be minimized, much attention and support should be given to lifeguards by providing them enough materials as well as to train them. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Ndesise.
And from the report there by Ndesise on the safety of the beach, finally to Kenya next we go. Now, in a bid to mitigate the lack of power supply in his area, a 28-year-old Kenyan has developed a mini hydropower plant to supply electricity at no cost for the community. His journey began 10 years ago after drawing inspiration from his brother's bicycle dynamo, which produces light when the wheel turns, leading to his amazing breakthrough. Now, more than 600 households, including businesses, are benefiting from the electricity supply. We have more details of that in this report.
This is John Magiro from Murang'a County. It's evening time and he's doing a routine check on his power line at Njumbi Market. He owns a mini hydro power plant that supplies electricity for security lights here free of charge. His story began more than 10 years ago. Life was so difficult then, as his village had no access to electricity.
The community, they were using mainly the paraffin, and also the Kenya Power, it was not allowed.
He was inspired to do this after observing his brother's bicycle dynamo that generated light when the wheel turned. From there, John Magiro was able to build a power plant at these falls along River Ngondo using scrap metals and a bigger dynamo. His concept was very simple. Use the power of water to turn a dynamo, generating electricity. He has been upgrading the power plant since the National Environmental Trust Fund came on board. Instead of a dynamo, he now uses turbines.
One thing about Magiro is that it's quite reliable. The power is always available. The guy is there to make sure that whenever there are issues, they are being sorted very fast.
Water at high speed and pressure is what turns turbines. Using trees, stones and concrete, Magiro redirected water from River Ngondo, creating a water reservoir.
Also, the reservoir make the head of the hydropower to be a bit higher.
Now, when water runs through this giant pipe, it gathers pace and gains pressure. As it passes through turbine runners located in the power station, each runner rotates, producing mechanical energy. It's then passed through an electrical generator, which is connected on a shaft. This is how Magiro Hydro Power Station is converting water's potential energy into electrical energy, ready for distribution.
The time that I was using the bicycle dynamo, it was generating around 0.5 watts. But right now, the kilowatt that you are generating in Kahedwine, you are generating around 25 kilowatts. After that, in Kiawabogo, you are generating around 18, and also Gitoko, you are generating 10. So all the power that you are generating in Kiawabogo and Gitoko, they are synchronized in Kahedwine.
The impact of electricity supply on this village has been huge. John Kenywa operates a shop at Njumbi Shopping Center. He says Magiro Power has helped his business a great deal.
I use it for lighting my shop, power my radio, phone, and weighing machine. It doesn't have many power blackouts.
Currently, over 650 households in Magiro's village are connected to his power plant, but the 28-year-old is planning to expand and connect even more villages to his power grid.
What an inspiration. A young Kenyan there, of course, broke barriers to help his community access to electricity. Well, and from the reporter in Kenya, we would bring this news bulletin to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website, onafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a very pleasant day. Bye-bye.
They say we slept in one world and woke up in another.